Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we have yet another one of my favorite 65% keyboards. It was number 2 in our best 65% keyboards of 2020 video. Link that right here for you to see if you haven't seen it already. But this is the Leopold FC660M. We got this in Cherry MX red switches with the really nice white on black keycaps. And Leopold has some of the best keycaps that I've ever seen to come with the keyboard. And that alone sort of makes this keyboard worth it already, because keycap sets that look like this are like $70 to $100. So I'm really impressed with the quality of it, but there are some downsides here as well, and we're gonna have to jump into that farther into the review to really get a look at why this is number 2 and not number 1. Let's jump into the review. Hey guys, this is Betty from Switch and Click. I hope you liked that little thing that we just saw, because that took like an hour for me to make. I'm trying something new, learning some cinematic stuff, film, things like that. So another one of my hobbies, I guess, or developing hobbies. So I'm gonna include some of that pretty much every video as I get more and more practice and more learning and stuff. So bear with me if you have any cool resources for cinematic stuff. We're here to talk about the Leopold FC660M, not cinema, film, and video. This was about $120 on mechanicalkeyboards.com. It is 65% with a 2-key cluster here on the right, and it has some pretty good things about it and some really not so great things as well. But overall, it's a really well regarded keyboard within the mechanical keyboard hobby. Some people say it stands on the same level as the Varmilla boards that I rave about so often on this channel. It's really a simple, no frills mechanical keyboard, great for your desk setup, the office, wherever. It just looks straight up amazing. But we gotta jump into what's in the box. So in the box, you have yourself a really average looking plastic dust cover. It does cover the keyboard quite well, and it doesn't leave any gaps for dust and hair and stuff like that to get in. You also get a little manual here. Most of it is in Korean, it looks like. And then you have one page here that's in English that is actually really convenient for you, because it has the secondary functions and what the dip switches do on the back of the board. In addition to that, you have a rubber black mini USB cable here. Why do some of the best keyboards have to have mini USB? Can't they upgrade already? You have your plastic keycap puller and then 2 additional keycaps. They are caps lock and control, and it's to switch the position of caps lock and control. If you do that, let's jump into build quality and design. At Switch and Click, we do always start at the back. We have 4 rubber feet here, and they're not as heavy duty as I've seen, but they'll get the job done. You have 2 kickstands here with 1 angle, and another downside, so many of these boards have this, but the rubber feet just slide off really easily, and you can lose them if you're not careful. So if you want to not lose them, make sure you glue the feet there or something. You have your dip switches here, and you're gonna need pretty small fingers to be able to adjust that. At the top right here, you have your mini USB port. So not only is it mini USB, but it's also on the right side. It is a little bit recessed, but the hole is generally big enough for a lot of cables to fit in there. The build itself feels really sturdy. It's quite heavy, and it has a nice angle here. The front is relatively low, and you're not going to need a wrist rest to really be comfortable when typing with this board. As far as layout goes, it is a 65% board. We have 2 keys here on the top right. There's this blocker here blocking the arrows from these 2 keys, and this just feels like there's a waste of space here. I feel like we could have added a 3rd key in here somehow, but we have room there for another button. The dip switches in the back can be used to change different things according to the manual, which you're going to need because nowhere else does it state what the dip switches do. The first function you can do is switch left control and caps lock. The second is switch Windows and left alt, Windows and FN, or you can enable or disable the Windows key. So 4 different things you can do with the back there, and there is no software, so that's pretty much all of the edits that you can do to this board. The board itself itself has very minimal flex. It feels really sturdy and appropriately heavy for its size. This is probably where things start to go a little bit downhill for me, is the layout. So if you look at the bottom row is a non-standard layout. You have a 1U left Windows key. Why did they do that? In addition to that, these two shifts are the exact same size, so they're both 2.25U, and this is something that you don't really see in other keyboards or other keycap sets. So if you want to replace this keycap set, it would be sort of a pain in the butt. Or if you want to use this keycap set on another board, it would also not work because of these two significant differences. So despite this keycap set looking so good and being so high quality, it pretty much only fits this board. So that is a bummer indeed. That's just a bummer. So, I mean, how many keyboards do you find that have two left shifts or two right shifts or shifts that are the same size? It's just why? But good thing the keycaps on this board are so good in the first place. So we'll jump into keycaps now. So these keycaps are 1.5 millimeters thick. They're made of PBT. They're actually double shot PBT. And if you look at the underside of these keycaps, they look exactly like what a fancy keycap set would look like. There's no shine through, but they just look so clean and so good. It reminds me a lot of GMK white on black or EPBT white on black. So it's just really clean looking. So the legends aren't gonna fade. They're gonna last a really long time. There are side printed sub legends as well if you don't have your manual and you forget some secondary functions. The top row, you have your function row. Around the K cluster, you have your other navigational keys. As far as switches go, we got the Cherry MX Reds. There are a lot of other Cherry MX switches that you can pick from as well. The switches themselves have pretty audible spring ping when you're typing just from a regular distance. From the sound test, which you'll be hearing very soon, you can probably hear some of that spring ping, and the microphone is about head height above the keyboard. So we're jumping to that sound test right now. I forgot, because we're talking about the FC660M. These only come with Cherry MX switches, but the FC660C, those also come with Topre switches. So you can pick from 45 grams or silent 45 grams. If you're into that, obviously the cost of this keyboard is gonna skyrocket with those exclusive Topre switches to like over $200. But as it is with the Cherry MX switches, it's about $120, so it's not that bad. But from the sound test, you could hear a little bit of spring ping. It's not a ton, and the space bar is a little bit rattly as well. So we'll talk about the stabilizers. They are not lubed, surprisingly, because a lot of keyboards at this price point happen to be lubed. There are 5 sets of stabilizers. We got stabilizers on left shift, right shift, backspace, enter, and space bar. They are plate mounted cherry style. Their stems are like a dark gray color, which looks really nice with the black housings. So surprisingly unlubed, but they sound decent, especially the smaller ones. With the space bar, there is some rubber material underneath the space bars to prevent like that loud echo, but it still sounds pretty rattly. I'm pretty sure some lube will be able to fix that. If you watch Wildcat's videos, he uses like an interdental brush or a syringe to insert some dielectric grease or lube within the stabilizer housings, and that's just something that we can do to really improve the sound of this so that the rattling can be decreased. In addition to all of that, there is a layer of sound dampening foam, felt material within the space bar, and you can see that it's not really foam, but it's not really rubber either. I would say it's felt. In addition, you also have a layer of that felt material underneath your PCB as well within the case, and that's the sound absorbing pad that Leopold refers to on their box. So there are some downsides with this board, and one of the things I discovered while testing and reading the manual is that it only has 6-key rollover. Now, we don't mention rollover a lot or anti-ghosting a lot on the channel because many keyboards that we review do have N-key rollover and 100% anti-ghosting, but this keyboard only has 6-key rollover, 7-key if you're holding like FN or something, and that's not a huge issue to me because I don't press a whole bunch of keys at once. But if you're gaming with both hands or something, I can see how that can be an issue to you. Other downsides include the 2 left shifts, or the 2.25U shifts, the 1U Windows key, and the mini USB port. So what's the verdict on this board? It is a very nice board. It's really good looking, but it's just not as versatile as the Ducky Mia Pro. It's got a really nice layout, really nice keycaps, really nice build quality, but the features that we just mentioned that are the downsides make it really not as good as some of the other options out there. And it costs a little bit more, or on par with a lot of those boards as well. The sound dampening pad is really nice. The keycaps are some of the best that I've seen on a board. The mini USB port does seem a little bit outdated, and this board is a little bit more expensive than others as well. In addition, the keycaps are hard to replace, and that makes it less long-lasting or less timely than some of those other boards that we mentioned. So I personally would go with the Ducky Mia Pro, and you can watch that review right here. But if you're going the Topre route, I've heard that the FC660C is just one of the best stock Topre experiences that people have ever experienced. I have not, but people in the Discord have said that I must try it, so maybe next year. As always, thank you so much for being here. Even if you don't like keyboards, thank you. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Might be 2021 in the next one. Bye!